The merchant vessel Starlight Voyager glided silently through the emptiness of the outer rim. Stars twinkled in the distance, their light barely reaching this forgotten corner of the galaxy. Captain Taiwan Kim stood on the bridge, his tall, slender frame bent over a display screen. His four-fingered hands moved quickly as he reviewed trade manifests. 3 more stops before we return to the Alliance, he murmured to himself, his pale blue skin reflecting the soft glow of the screens. The journey had been profitable but uneventful, exactly how he preferred his trading runs. First Officer Bomsiuk entered the bridge. Captain, we're approaching the Nix Nebula. Navigation suggests a slight course adjustment to avoid the radiation belts. Captain Kim nodded. Approved. And how are our passengers? The diplomats are comfortable. They'd spent most of the journey in their quarters. Kim smiled. Transporting Alliance officials wasn't his favorite assignment, but it paid well and strengthened his standing in the Galactic Alliance. 20 years of clean records and successful missions had earned him respect among his people. Some even whispered he might be appointed to the council someday. The ship hummed peacefully as it adjusted course. Kim was about to retire to his quarters when a sharp, blaring alarm cut through the silence. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge. Proximity alert, shouted the sensor officer. Multiple vessels approaching. Kim rushed to the main view screen. Show me. 3 sleek, dark ships emerged from the nebula's purple haze, their engines glowing ominously as they accelerated toward the Starlight Voyager Pirates. Bomsiuk whispered, his voice tight with fear. Everyone knew the stories. The Outer Rim had become hunting grounds for raiders who preyed on merchant vessels. They showed no mercy, stripping ships of cargo and leaving crews to die in the vacuum of space. Raise shields, Kim ordered. Contact Alliance patrol ships. The communications officer shook her head. No patrols in this sector, sir. We're on our own. Then prepare for evasive maneuvers, Kim said firmly, though he knew their merchant vessel stood little chance against 3 attack ships. The Starlight Voyager lurched forward, its engine straining as it attempted to outrun the pirates. The first shots from the pursuing ships struck their rear shields. Shields at 60%, called out the defensive systems officer. Another hit rocked the ship. 40%. Captain Kim gripped the edge of his command chair. Return fire. The Starlight Voyager's small defensive cannons fired, but the shots merely glanced off the pirates' shields. They're toying with us, Bomsiuk said grimly. A third barrage hit them directly in the engine housing. The ship shuddered violently, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Engine 3 is down. Shields at 15%. Kim closed his eyes briefly. In his 20 years of space travel, he had never faced such a situation. He thought of his family back home, of promises he had made to return. Prepare the escape pods for the passengers, he ordered quietly. Send out a distress signal on all frequencies. Sir, the communications officer said, surprise in her voice, I'm detecting another ship entering the area. More pirates? Kim asked. No, sir. It's a human vessel. The view screen shifted to show a small, angular ship approaching rapidly. It was barely a third the size of the Starlight Voyager but it moved with remarkable speed and precision. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. A human face appeared on the screen, a woman with determined eyes and short black hair. This is Lieutenant Hansel Park of the Earth Defense Scout Ship Horizon *. Hang tight, Starlight *. We've got you covered. Before Kim could respond, the human ship shot past them, heading straight for the pirate vessels. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the tiny ship performed maneuvers that defied conventional piloting wisdom. They're insane, Bomsiuk whispered. 1 ship against 3. But the human vessel moved like nothing Kim had ever seen. It rolled and pivoted, flying directly between 2 pirate ships, causing them to fire upon each other in their attempt to hit the agile target. Their flying pattern is completely unpredictable, the sensor officer noted with awe. The human ship fired precise shots that somehow found weak points in the pirates' shields. Within minutes, one pirate vessel hung dead in space, its engines disabled. The remaining pirates tried to coordinate their attack, but the human ship slipped between them again, firing weapons that seemed designed to disable rather than destroy. "Look," Bomb Siuk pointed as small objects launched from the human vessel. Boarding drones, Kim realized as the objects attached themselves to the pirate ships. Minutes later, Lieutenant Park's face reappeared on the screen. "Pirates are neutralized, Captain. Their weapons and engines are disabled, and we've placed their crews under restraint. Alliance security forces can pick them up at your convenience." Kim stared at the screen, unable to fully process what had just happened. One small human ship had accomplished what an entire Alliance patrol might have struggled to do. When the Horizon docked with the Starlight Voyager for repairs, Kim insisted on personally greeting Lieutenant Park. She was shorter than he expected, with a friendly smile that belied the skill and courage he had just witnessed. "I must formally thank you, Lieutenant Park," Kim said, bowing deeply in his people's tradition. "You saved not only my ship but the lives of everyone aboard, including 3 Alliance diplomats." Park looked slightly embarrassed. "Just doing what anyone would do, Captain. We picked up your distress call and responded. But no one else did respond," Kim said solemnly. "And among my people, such a debt, a life debt, is sacred." Park smiled. "Well, I'm glad we could help. Earth believes in looking out for each other, no matter what species we are." She didn't understand. In Kim's culture, a life debt was binding, a promise to repay the favor no matter the cost or time. By saving him, this human had unknowingly created a bond that Kim would honor until his dying day. As repairs finished and the ships prepared to part ways, Kim made a formal declaration in front of both crews. "Let it be known that I, Captain Ta-Won Kim, owe a life debt to Lieutenant Han-Sol Park, and by extension, to humanity. When the time comes, I will honor this debt, whatever the cost." The humans nodded politely, clearly not grasping the significance of his words. But Kim knew. Someday, somehow, he would repay this debt. And when that day came, he would show these humans exactly what such a promise meant to his people. The grand chambers of the High Council gleamed under soft blue lights. 2 years had passed since Captain Kim's encounter with the pirates and the human rescue ship. Now he sat among the most powerful leaders of his species, wearing the formal silver robes of a council member. The promotion had come quickly. His diplomatic skill, trading success, and the accounts from the Alliance diplomats who witnessed the pirate attack had propelled his career forward. But as Kim listened to the current discussion, his 4 fingers tapped nervously against the polished table. "The humans expand too quickly," said Elder Seo, his wrinkled blue face set in a scowl. "They establish colonies without proper permission, and their technology advances at an alarming rate." Council leader Jun nodded. "Their unpredictability makes them dangerous. That is why the hegemony's proposal deserves our consideration." Kim tried to keep his face neutral as the meeting continued. The hegemony, a collective of 17 species known for their strict hierarchical beliefs, had never hidden their distrust of humans. But what Kim was hearing went beyond distrust. After the meeting ended, Kim lingered in the empty chamber, reviewing the files on his datapad. The words blurred before his eyes as the weight of what he had learned settled on him. War. The hegemony was preparing for war with Earth. Even worse, his own government, the alliance he had served faithfully for decades, was secretly providing support. Ships, weapons, intelligence on Earth's defenses, all flowing quietly to the hegemony. Kim returned to his private quarters and locked the door. He stood before the window overlooking the capital city, its towers glowing softly against the night sky. On his desk sat a small crystal display containing an image of Lieutenant Park and himself, taken during the repair operations on the Starlight Voyager *. Just doing what anyone would do, she had said. But no one had done it except her. No Alliance ship had responded to their distress call. Only the humans had come. The life debt he had declared weighed heavily on him. Among his people, such debts were considered sacred, unbreakable bonds that transcended all other loyalties. For thousands of years, his ancestors had honored such debts, sometimes at terrible cost. What would my father say? Kim whispered to himself. His father had been a traditionalist who taught him the old ways. A debt of life can only be repaid with loyalty that knows no bounds, he had said. It is the highest promise one can make. Kim closed his eyes. If he warned the humans about the coming attack, he would be betraying his own government, committing treason. He would lose everything, his position, his reputation, possibly even his life. But if he remained silent, billions of humans might die, including Lieutenant Park. I must warn them, he decided, his voice firm in the empty room. The next 3 days passed in a blur of secret preparations. Kim arranged for an inspection tour of outer colonies, giving himself 2 weeks away from the council. He selected his most trusted aides for the journey and brought only those he could rely on completely. Once his official ship departed for the colonies, Kim and 2 loyal crew members transferred to a small, unmarked vessel. They plotted a course for Earth that avoided major travel routes and Alliance monitoring stations. You understand the risk? Kim asked his companions. Both nodded solemnly. A life debt is sacred, said Jun Seo, his pilot. We will help you honor it. The journey to Earth took 9 days. They traveled through nebulas and asteroid fields to avoid detection, each day increasing the distance between Kim and everything he had known. Each night, he wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. When they finally reached Earth orbit, Kim was surprised by the planet's beauty. Swirling blue oceans and green continents under wispy white clouds. It looked peaceful, not like a world preparing for war. Making contact proved difficult. Kim's initial messages were ignored or deflected to minor officials. His Alliance credentials, once a source of pride, now made humans suspicious. It took 3 days of persistent requests before he was granted a meeting with Earth Defense Command. The meeting room was sparse and functional. 5 human officers sat across from Kim, their faces showing various degrees of distrust. At the center sat General Jeho Lee, a stern-faced man with gray at his temples. You claim to have urgent information, General Lee said, about a threat to Earth. Kim nodded. The hegemony is preparing for war against your planet. They have been gathering forces at Proxima Station for the past 6 months. The general's expression didn't change. This information is not new to us, council member. We have our own intelligence sources. What you may not know, Kim continued, is that my government, the Alliance, is secretly supporting them. We are providing ships, weapons, and detailed scans of your colonial defenses. A murmur ran through the human officers. One woman leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Why would you tell us this? She demanded. Why betray your own people? Before Kim could answer, General Lee raised his hand. More importantly, the general said, why should we believe you? This could be misinformation, a trap to make us divert resources. Kim took a deep breath. He had prepared for this question. 2 years ago, a human ship saved my vessel from pirates in the Outer Rim. The captain was Lieutenant Hansel Park of the Horizon *. In our culture, such a rescue creates a life debt, a sacred obligation that cannot be broken. The general's expression changed slightly. Lieutenant Park. I know her. She's been promoted since then, commanded several successful missions. I must honor my debt, Kim said simply, even at the cost of betraying my government. General Lee studied him for a long moment. You understand what you're doing. If what you say is true, you can never return home. Your people will consider you a traitor. Kim met his gaze steadily. I understand. Why? Asked the female officer again. Why would you throw away everything? Your position, your future, For us. For humans you barely know. Kim thought of Lieutenant Park's smile as she had brushed off his thanks, the casual courage with which she had faced 3 enemy ships. Because Lieutenant Park saved me without hesitation or expectation, Kim replied. Such honor must be repaid. The room fell silent. For the first time, Kim saw respect in the human's eyes. General Lee nodded slowly. We'll need details. Everything you know about Alliance involvement. Their technology, their plans. I brought data, Kim said, placing a small crystal on the table. And I will tell you everything I know. As the meeting continued into the night, Kim felt a strange mixture of grief and relief. He had crossed a line from which there was no return. But the weight of the life debt, which had pressed on him for 2 years, was finally beginning to lift. The attack came at dawn. Thousands of hegemony warships emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon, weapons hot, and targeting systems locked on the human defenses. The invasion force was the largest assembled in 50 years, a massive collection of ships from 17 different species united under the hegemony banner. What they didn't expect was Earth's preparedness. As the first wave of attackers moved toward the orbital defense platforms, hidden human vessels rose from the dark side of the moon. Anti-ship missiles launched from bases on Mars struck the hegemony supply ships. Defensive shields activated around every major Earth city at exactly the right moment to deflect the initial bombardment. On the hegemony command ship, Admiral Vosh slammed his fist on the control panel. How do they know our attack plan? He demanded. They've countered every move we prepared. His second-in-command hesitated before speaking. Sir, our Alliance contacts report that Council Member Kim disappeared 3 weeks ago. His ship was found abandoned near the border of human space. Admiral Vosh's eyes narrowed. The traitor, he warned them. While the battle raged above Earth, Kim sat in a safe house in Geneva, providing real-time analysis of hegemony tactics to Earth Defense Command. For 2 weeks, he had worked with human military leaders, explaining the weaknesses of various hegemony ships and the best countermeasures against their weapons. The Draxian cruisers have weak shields at their engine ports, he explained to the tactical officers. Your smaller ships can exploit that weakness. General Lee nodded. The information you've provided has saved millions of lives, Council Member. Kim shook his head. I am no longer a Council Member. Just call me Kim. As the first day of fighting ended, Earth had suffered damage but stood firm. The hegemony forces withdrew to regroup, clearly shocked by the effective resistance. Kim should have felt satisfied. He had repaid his debt to Lieutenant Park and humanity. But deep inside, he knew the war was just beginning. The hegemony would return with greater numbers, and the Alliance would soon join them openly. That night, as Kim slept fitfully in his guarded room, an alarm blared through the building. He woke to find 2 human soldiers at his door. Sir, we need to move you immediately, one said urgently. We've been compromised. They rushed Kim through dark hallways. Outside, he heard the sound of weapons fire. What's happening? He asked. Alliance Special Forces, the soldier replied grimly. They've come for you. Before they could reach the evacuation point, an explosion rocked the building. Kim was thrown against a wall, his vision blurring. When he regained his senses, both human guards were down. 3 figures in Alliance combat armor stood over him. Council Member Taewon Kim, said the lead soldier, you are under arrest for high treason against the Alliance. Kim didn't resist. He had known this might happen. As they led him away, he caught a final glimpse of Earth's night sky, wondering if he would ever see it again. The prison ship took him to Rigel Station, a maximum security Alliance facility. For 3 days, Kim was interrogated about what he had told the humans. He answered truthfully but revealed nothing they didn't already know. On the 4th day, the station commander visited his cell. Your trial has been expedited, she informed him coldly. The verdict is guilty. Execution is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Kim accepted the news calmly. May I write a final message to my family? Traitors have no such rights, she replied. That night, as Kim meditated in preparation for death, he heard unusual sounds outside his cell, soft thuds and the hiss of a cutting torch. The door slid open, revealing a figure in Alliance Guard armor. The figure removed their helmet, revealing a familiar face. Lieutenant Park. Kim whispered in disbelief. It's Commander Park now, she corrected with a quick smile. We need to move fast. Two more humans in stolen guard uniforms appeared behind her. Hallway is clear, Commander, one reported. How did you find me? Kim asked as Park helped him to his feet. Your tracking implant, she said. All council members have them. We intercepted the signal when the Alliance took you. They moved swiftly through the station's service corridors. Park led them to a maintenance hatch that opened onto a docking bay. Our ship is disguised as an Alliance supply vessel, she explained. Once we're aboard, we'll have 15 minutes before they realize something's wrong. Kim hesitated. You risked everything to come here. If you're caught, it would be an act of war. Park met his eyes. We don't leave friends behind, she said firmly. That's what humans do. She turned to her team. Remember why we're here. This man saved billions of lives by warning us about the hegemony attack. Earth doesn't forget its friends. They reached the ship without incident and were preparing for departure when alarms began to sound throughout the station. They've discovered your empty cell, Park said. Strap in. This might get rough. The disguised human vessel detached from the station and accelerated toward open space. Alliance patrol ships immediately moved to intercept. 5 ships closing fast, reported the pilot. They're charging weapons. Park took the weapons control. I was hoping for a quiet exit. She fired precise shots that disabled the lead patrol ship's engines without destroying it. The human vessel twisted and rolled, evading fire from the other pursuers. You still fly like no one else, Kim observed, gripping his seat as the ship performed an impossible turn. Park grinned. The Alliance never learns. They keep expecting us to follow standard flight patterns. After a tense chase, they reached the edge of the system and jumped to hyperspace. Safety, at least temporarily. In the quiet aftermath, Kim found Park in the ship's small mess hall. You risked everything, he said quietly. So did you, Park replied. That makes us even. Kim shook his head. No, my debt remains. What I did was required by my culture's most sacred tradition. What you did, coming to rescue me, that was a choice. Maybe that's the difference between our species, Park suggested. You follow tradition. We follow our hearts. Kim considered this, perhaps, but now I must help you win this war. The Alliance will join the hegemony openly now. And I know their weaknesses. Park's expression grew serious. We're heading to Earth's hidden command center on Titan. General Lee wants you to help plan our next move. As their ship traveled through hyperspace, Kim studied the stars streaking past. He had lost his home, his position, everything he had worked for. Yet strangely, he felt freer than he had in years. The life debt remained, but now it felt less like a burden and more like a purpose. These humans, with their unpredictable ways and their strange concept of friendship, had given him something unexpected. A cause worth fighting for. We'll reach Earth space in 14 hours, Park said, interrupting his thoughts. You should rest. Kim nodded. Commander Park, there's something I need to know. Why did Earth send its best officer on such a dangerous mission just to rescue me? Park smiled. Because you're not just an ally, Kim. You're the first of your kind to see us as equals. And that makes you the most important diplomat in the galaxy right now. The hidden command center on Titan bustled with activity. 3 months had passed since Kim's rescue from the Alliance prison. The war had intensified, with the Alliance now openly fighting alongside the hegemony against Earth and its colonies. Human forces fought bravely but were outnumbered 5-1. Kim stood before a holographic map showing the latest battle lines. The situation looked grim. Earth had lost 3 colony worlds already. Supply routes were being cut off. The combined Alliance hegemony fleet was pushing closer to the solar system each day. Commander Park entered the strategy room, looking tired but determined. "The Council is ready for you," she told Kim. They walked together to the large conference chamber where Earth's military and political leaders had gathered. General Lee nodded to them as they took their seats. "The situation is deteriorating," the general began bluntly. "Our intelligence suggests the enemy will reach Mars within 2 weeks. We need a new approach." Kim rose slowly to address the room. "I may have a solution. Not a military one, but a diplomatic one." The room fell silent as Kim explained his plan. During his years as a council member, he had built relationships with representatives from dozens of species. Many owed favors to him personally. Others might be persuaded to reconsider their allegiance to the Alliance. "Let me contact them," Kim proposed. "Not all species in the Alliance support this war. Some joined out of fear, others out of tradition. If we can show them another path." General Lee looked skeptical. "The Alliance has existed for thousands of years. Species don't simply break away." "They might," Kim countered, "if they knew the truth about humans." The plan was approved, though few believed it would work. Kim was given access to secure communications and began reaching out to his old contacts. Most ignored his messages. Some responded with anger or threats. But a precious few, agreed to listen. 5 days later, Kim received his first positive response. Councillor Da-hyun Choi of the Arcturus Collective requested a secret meeting. The meeting took place on a neutral mining station in the asteroid belt. Commander Park accompanied Kim as both bodyguard and witness. They waited nervously in a private room until Councillor Choi arrived, flanked by his own security. Choi was tall and thin, with iridescent scales covering his face and hands. He greeted Kim formally, then turned to study Commander Park with obvious curiosity. "So this is a human," he said. "I've never met one in person." Park bowed respectfully. "It's an honor, Counselor." They talked for hours. Kim explained Earth's position in the conflict and why he had chosen to warn the humans about the coming attack. Choi listened carefully, asking occasional questions. "The Alliance teachings about humans don't match what I see," Choi finally said. "We were told you are aggressive, unpredictable, dangerous. Yet you show restraint even in war." "Humans are different," Kim agreed. "That's why the hegemony fears them." Choi was silent for a long moment. Then he shared something unexpected. 10 years ago, a human medical ship came to my colony world. We were suffering from a plague that had killed thousands. Alliance doctors had declared it untreatable." Choi's voice grew quiet. "The humans stayed for months. They developed a cure when everyone else had given up. They saved over 3 million of my people." Park looked surprised. "I didn't know about this." "Few do," Choi replied. "The Alliance suppressed the story. They didn't want others to know that humans succeeded where they had failed." By the end of the meeting, Councillor Choi had agreed to speak with other members of the Arcturus Collective about possibly withdrawing from the conflict. It was a small victory, but it gave Kim hope. Over the next 2 weeks, he arranged more meetings. Some failed, but others bore fruit. Ambassador Sun Mei-Kang of the Proxima Worlds met with them next. Her species was known for their caution and neutrality. Yet she too had a story. "Humans defended my homeworld when no one else would," she told them. "Pirates were raiding our settlements. The Alliance ignored our pleas for help, but a human trade fleet happened to be nearby. They fought off the pirates without asking for payment or favors. One by one, representatives from different species came forward with similar accounts. A human mining crew that had rescued trapped workers on a gas giant. A human diplomatic mission that had negotiated peace between warring moons. Small acts of kindness and courage that had gone unrecognized by the galactic community. Each meeting ended with the same realization. What the Alliance taught about humans contradicted actual experiences. The stories of human aggression and unpredictability were at odds with the reality of human compassion and ingenuity. 3 weeks after Kim's first meeting with Counselor Choi, a miracle happened. The Arcturus Collective announced its neutrality in the conflict. They withdrew their ships from the Alliance hegemony fleet. The Proxima worlds followed a day later. Then the Ta City Federation. Each withdrawal weakened the enemy force. On Titan, Kim and Commander Park worked tirelessly to develop a new strategy. Instead of confronting the enemy's warships directly, they would target supply lines and communication hubs. The Alliance fleet is designed for direct confrontation, Kim explained to Earth's military leaders. They expect the same from you. But humans have always excelled at asymmetric warfare. Commander Park nodded. We hit them where they don't expect it. Small, fast strikes. Disable rather than destroy. Make it impossible for them to maintain their position without risking everything. The strategy worked better than anyone anticipated. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable than their Alliance counterparts, slipped past defensive lines to strike at fuel depots and supply convoys. The massive enemy fleet began to struggle without proper supplies and reinforcements. At the same time, more species began to question the war. The Sirius Conclave, impressed by Earth's restraint in targeting military installations while avoiding civilian casualties, opened diplomatic channels. The Epsilon Eridani Confederation, historically neutral, offered to mediate peace talks. A coalition was forming around Earth's leadership, shocking the galactic community. Species that had never cooperated now stood together, united not by fear or tradition, but by shared values. Kim watched these developments with a mixture of awe and pride. He had believed in the Alliance his entire life, never questioning its teachings about humans being dangerous outsiders. Now he saw the truth. Humans were different, but their differences were strengths, not weaknesses. One evening, as Kim and Commander Park reviewed battle reports, he voiced this realization. Humans don't fight like anyone else, Kim observed. That's their strength. Park looked up from her datapad. What do you mean? The Alliance and hegemony fight to destroy their enemies. Humans fight to protect others. Kim gestured to the map showing their latest victories. You disable ships rather than destroying them. You evacuate enemy wounded. You offer surrender terms repeatedly. These aren't the actions of a dangerous species. Park smiled. Maybe that's why we're gathering allies while they're losing them. The coalition continued to grow. With each passing week, the balance of power shifted. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the conflict began, there was real hope for victory, not through superior firepower, but through something the Alliance and hegemony had never considered: the power of friendship and mutual respect. The Galactic Council headquarters floated in space above a neutral world. The Great Hall, designed to host representatives from hundreds of species, had never been so full. After 8 months of war, the leaders of the Alliance and hegemony had finally agreed to peace talks. The human delegation arrived in a simple transport ship. They wore no military uniforms or elaborate diplomatic robes, just plain blue suits that matched the color of Earth's oceans. Kim walked among them, the only non-human in their group. Are you ready? Commander Park asked him quietly. Kim nodded. I've been preparing for this moment my entire life, though I didn't know it. They entered the Great Hall together. On one side sat the Alliance leaders, their faces stern and proud. On the other, the hegemony representatives watched with barely hidden disdain. In the center, neutral species served as mediators. The Alliance High Commander spoke first. This conflict has cost too many lives already. We are prepared to discuss terms of surrender with the humans. Ambassador Min Ja-song, leading the human delegation, stepped forward. She was a small woman with gentle eyes and gray-streaked hair. No one would have guessed she had been Earth's most skilled diplomat for 30 years. We are not here to discuss surrender, yours or ours, she said, her voice clear and strong. We are here to propose a new beginning. Murmurs spread through the hall as display screens activated, showing a document titled The New Galactic Charter. We don't want dominance. explained Ambassador Song. We want partnership. This charter proposes a framework where all species have equal voice, where cooperation replaces competition, where knowledge is shared rather than hoarded. The Alliance High Commander laughed. Pretty words. But the galaxy has functioned under our guidance for 10,000 years. Why would we abandon a system that works? Does it work? Kim asked, stepping forward. A hush fell over the room as his former colleagues recognized him. Look around you. Half the species that once stood with the Alliance now stand with humanity. Is that the mark of a successful system? The High Commander's eyes narrowed. Traitor, you have no right to speak here. I have every right, Kim replied calmly. I represent not just humanity, but all those who believe in a better future. Kim turned to address the entire assembly. I was raised to believe the Alliance represented the highest ideals of galactic civilization. I served it faithfully for decades, but when I saw the truth, that the Alliance feared difference rather than embracing it, I had to make a choice. He gestured toward the human delegation. These people, whom we were taught to fear, showed me a different path. When I honored my life debt to them, they didn't demand my loyalty or service. They offered friendship. The hall was silent now, every being present hanging on his words. I honored the life debt as our ancestors taught us, Kim continued. In return, humanity has shown us a better way forward. Not a galaxy ruled by fear and tradition, but one built on mutual respect and cooperation. For 3 days, the negotiations continued. The humans did not threaten or demand. Instead, they listened, suggested, and compromised. Species that had been enemies for centuries found common ground. Old grievances were aired and addressed. The new Galactic Charter took shape, not as a human creation, but as a truly collaborative effort. On the final day, the unexpected happened. The Alliance High Commander, who had resisted most strongly, requested a private meeting with Kim and Ambassador Song. Why? He asked simply when they were alone. Why offer peace when you could demand surrender? Your coalition now outnumbers ours. You could dictate terms. Ambassador Song smiled. Because that would just continue the cycle. Someone would always be planning revenge, waiting for a moment of weakness. We want to build something that lasts, Kim added. Something better than what came before. The High Commander was silent for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. Perhaps I have been wrong about humans. When they returned to the Great Hall, the High Commander announced his support for the new charter. One by one, other leaders added their agreement. Even many hegemony representatives, seeing the way the galaxy was changing, chose to join rather than stand alone. The old power structures collapsed. A new galactic council emerged, with representatives from all species holding equal authority. The first act of this new council was to establish principles of mutual aid and respect as the foundation of galactic law. Kim watched it all with a sense of wonder. What had begun as a simple life debt had transformed the galaxy. 5 years passed. Peace flourished under the new charter. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked together on joint projects. Trade increased. Knowledge was shared freely. The galaxy entered a golden age. Kim had returned to his homeworld, now as Earth's official ambassador. He had built a small house on a cliff overlooking the silver seas of his home planet. It was there that Commander Park, now Admiral Park, came to visit him. They sat together on his balcony, watching as the twin suns began their descent toward the horizon. The first sun was already halfway down, its red light painting the sea in shades of gold and copper. Earth has sent a delegation to help with the drought on the southern continent, Park told him. They've developed a new irrigation system that could save millions of acres of farmland. Kim nodded. I heard. Your people are always so quick to help. Our people, Park corrected gently. You're as much a citizen of Earth as I am now. They watched the suns in comfortable silence for a while. The second sun began to follow its brother toward the horizon, adding blue streaks to the colorful sky. You know, Park said, turning to face him, When you warned us about the invasion all those years ago, I thought you were just repaying a debt. I never expected you would help us change the galaxy." Kim smiled, remembering the day on the Starlight Voyager when a small human ship had appeared out of nowhere to save him from pirates. "When humanity is owed a favor, the unexpected becomes inevitable," he replied. Park laughed. "Is that an old saying from your people?" "No," Kim said, watching as the last sliver of the second sun disappeared below the horizon. "It's a new one, for a new galaxy." In the darkening sky above them, the first stars began to appear. Not just stars, but worlds. Hundreds of worlds where beings of all kinds now lived together in harmony. All because a single life debt had been honored. Kim thought about the strange path that had brought him here. The attack on his ship, the human rescue, the warning he had given Earth, the war that followed, and finally, the peace that had transformed everything. Some debts, he reflected, could never truly be repaid. But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps the greatest debts were the ones that kept giving, that created connections that lasted lifetimes, that changed not just individuals but entire civilizations. As night fell completely, he and Park sat in the darkness, two friends from different worlds, watching over a galaxy that neither of them could have imagined just a few years before. The end.